Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Right now at 5. Today marks 1 year to the day since Kern County learned of its first case of COVID-19. We'll take a look back at the pandemic and how it has changed almost every aspect of our lives.
Plus, President Biden faces increasing pressure over the growing number of migrants piling up at the U.S.-Mexico border. More than 4,000 unaccompanied children are now in Border Patrol custody.
And we're learning more about what it will be like to watch high school sports as kids are finally allowed back on the field. Kern High School District announces new rules for spectators. This is Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher in studio today for our special edition of 17 News at Sunrise that is coming up this morning at 6 a.m.
You know, it is hard to believe that it has been a year of this journey. And I know that a lot of people over the last several days have been reflecting on what has happened over the last year. So we'll have more on that coming up a little bit later this morning. Again, our special edition newscast starts at 6 a.m.
Yeah, so much to get to. But of course, we want to talk about our forecast and send it over to Kevin and see what we're looking at after that storm finally rolled through. Kev?
Well, good morning and happy St. Patty's Day to you and everybody around Kern County. And the weather looking great for us today as we see more sunshine, and temperatures will be on the rise as well as we take you outside and show you the skies. A few clouds off to the west, but that is it. We should be looking at mostly sunny conditions for today, starting out at 41 degrees under a calm wind right now. And as we take a look at the temperatures throughout the day, we'll be rising into the 60s by 3 o'clock, and I think we'll be closer to 70 by the time we end out the day. As we take a look into Tehachapi, still a little bit of snow on the ground. It is chilly. Could see some black ice in some of the rural roadways, so keep that in mind. 27 degrees as mentioned, and an east-southeast wind at 5. We'll be starting out in those 30s by 7 a.m., and then this afternoon we'll be rising into those 50s with that east-southeast wind sustained at about 13. We are tracking another storm that could bring some rain our direction, but when? I've got details on that coming up in just a few minutes. Back over to you.
Kev, thanks so much. 5:02 is your time now, and we begin this hour with the latest on the coronavirus pandemic here in Kern County. Kern Public Health reports 77 new cases yesterday and 5 new deaths. Our death toll continues to inch toward the 1,000 mark. With yesterday's update, 993 people have lost their lives to coronavirus, and it is likely that that number is higher as health officials work to confirm new deaths. State data shows 108 people are in the hospital, 27 are in the ICU. We're seeing an average of about 90 people getting sick every day. That is significantly down from more than 2 months ago, when our average was more than 1,000 cases every day.
Good news for local business owners. Kern County is expected to move into the red tier of coronavirus restrictions next week. A county must meet the metrics for 2 weeks before it can officially move into a less restrictive tier. Kern met the red tier metric for the first time yesterday. If the downward trend continues as expected, Kern will move into the red tier on March 24th. The state uses 3 categories to determine when counties can move into the less restrictive tiers: the daily number of cases per 100,000 people, the positivity rate, and the positivity rate in disadvantaged areas. All 3 categories meet red tier numbers. In the red tier, restaurants can open for indoor dining, along with gyms, movie theaters, and schools with modifications. If you're waiting to get vaccinated, it's important to know if you qualify before trying to schedule. Those eligible include anyone 65 years in age of up, healthcare workers and first responders, plus teachers, child care workers, those in emergency services, and people who work in the food and ag industry. And recently added groups include pregnant women and people with serious health conditions like cancer, type 2 diabetes, and chronic kidney disease. It also covers people with developmental disabilities and those in certain work settings like public transit or the prison system. And if you're in one of those eligible groups, you can sign up for a vaccine appointment using the state's website, myturn.ca.gov. You can also call 833-422-4255 to schedule an appointment.
Nearly 1,000 Kern County families have lost a relative to COVID-19 over the past 12 months. And for some families, though, the pandemic has been especially cruel. 17's Robert Price has the story of one family who has been hit especially hard.
Nobody ever said the COVID-19 virus was fair. Nobody ever said there was any kind of justice in who was taken and who was not. But it's doubly hard to understand how one family can bear the burden of two heartaches like those suffered by the Moran family. But that's the sort of pain they're experiencing now, having lost Carmen and little Carmen, mother and daughter, less than 2 weeks apart, from COVID-19. Maria Carmen Moran, 68 and petite, went simply by Carmen. Her daughter, just 41, went by little Carmen whenever there was a possibility of confusion, even though she was 4 inches taller than her 5'2" mother. They got sick after Christmas. 7 family members did, actually. Some of them had gathered for the holiday. But despite taking recommended precautions, little Carmen, who had health issues, couldn't rally, and she died January 18th. Her mother took precautions too, but Grandma Moran died 9 days later, January 27th. One of Carmen's granddaughters was Alicia Moran, and then there was Alicia's aunt, little Carmen.
She was an amazing woman. It's still very fresh, you know. She was very, very kind and super funny and very hardworking. Loved her family a lot. She was very sarcastic about everything. So she was just the best person to be around.
The older Carmen was not your typical petite grandmother. She was a long-haul trucker. She drove an 18-wheeler and occasionally traveled coast to coast.
It was just funny because she was so small and she drove this massive thing. She was the sweetest person you'd ever meet.
A unique grandmother, 2 special Carmens. One family dealing with 2 heartaches at the same time, 2 in 1,000. In Bakersfield, Robert Price, 17 News.
Welcome back. It is 5:16 on this Wednesday morning. Immigration, intelligence, and Ireland. 3 big topics on the White House agenda today. NBC's Tracy Potts has a look at what you need to know from Washington.
Good morning, Alex. Good morning, everyone. Let's start with immigration and the situation at the border. The Homeland Security Secretary is testifying here today and is expected to be grilled about the thousands of children now in U.S. custody. As President Biden prepares for a virtual meeting with Ireland's Prime Minister on this St. Patrick's Day, his administration faces increasing pressure over the growing number of migrants piling up at the U.S.-Mexico border. There have been more than 1,000 new entries in the last week and 4,000 unaccompanied children now in Border Patrol custody.
She cries and is scared, but before she wasn't like that. She was very happy.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas testifies before a Senate committee today. He says we're on pace to see the largest influx in 20 years.
It's getting worse because of President Biden's policies. What President Trump was doing was working.
President Biden tells ABC he's been clear.
I can say quite clearly, don't come, and what we're in the process of getting set up, don't leave your town or city or community.
Today, Democrat and Republican senators meet to decide whether to focus on immigration, the minimum wage, or infrastructure. This as the Director of National Intelligence releases a new report that Russia, not China, interfered to get President Trump reelected.
Russia has these really brazen, high-impact, high-visibility efforts. Meanwhile, in the background, China's playing a much slower, quieter game.
The report found that Russian President Vladimir Putin personally authorized efforts to undermine public confidence in the election. And we've got reaction this morning from the Russian embassy. They claim the report is full of groundless accusations. I'm Tracy Potts, 17 News.
Meantime, former President Trump yesterday urged Americans to get vaccinated to help curb the spread of COVID-19, calling it safe and something that works. The recommendation comes after Dr. Fauci urged the former president to speak up following a revealing poll showing nearly half of Trump supporters would not get the vaccine. The former president received his vaccine behind closed doors during his presidency.
All right, 5:46 now, and making headlines around the nation this morning. 8 people are dead at 3 different massage parlors in the Atlanta area. Authorities have 1 man in custody. He is a suspect in all of the shootings. NBC's Dan Shinneman reports.
Police were called to a robbery in progress. The scene, a massage parlor in northeast Atlanta.
We were able to come upon the scene where individual was shot inside the location. While at that location, we received another call across the street at shots fired. responded to that to find another individual was shot at that location.
All of the victims, police say, are women. Nearby, workers startled by gunfire.
We just heard numerous gunshots coming from across the street. They wouldn't let us out.
And north of Atlanta, in Cherokee County, another massage parlor is another shooting scene.
Our deputies arrived on the location, located 2 people deceased inside and 3 other individuals that had been shot.
2 more victims later died. Authorities say they have a man in custody, 21-year-old Robert Aaron Long.
We had really good information about his vehicle, and of course cameras are everywhere now. So from what I understand, they were comparing the images of the suspect and his vehicle and tag information and all that with what they have down there, and that's how we came to the conclusion that he was also a suspect in Atlanta.
Police have not commented on a possible motive. Dan Sheneman, NBC News.
5:48 now, making news around the state. 2 people are dead following a massive fireworks explosion yesterday in a Southern California neighborhood. Investigators say the explosion in Ontario was ignited by a stockpile of fireworks. Aerial pictures show a home still smoldering hours after the explosion. The roof ripped off with debris scattered throughout the backyards of nearby homes.
Yeah, they're commercial grade. They're the type of explosives we believe that you would normally see at a fireworks show.
Again, 2 people were killed. Some people inside the home survived with minor injuries.
Also in state news this morning, Senator Shannon Grove of Bakersfield announced last night that her bill to target unemployment insurance fraud passed out of the Senate Public Safety Committee. SB 39 would require the Employment Development Department to cross-check unemployment insurance claims with state prison rolls. This after a massive fraud scheme led to the state to pay out over $1 billion to inmates, despite them being ineligible to receive the benefits under the law. SB 39 passed with a vote 4-0. The measure will be heard by the Senate Committee of Labor, Public Employment, and Retirement in the coming weeks.
5:49 now. Today is the deadline for organizers of the effort to recall Governor Newsom to turn in the necessary signatures for the issue to head to voters. 17's Sacramento Bureau Chief Ashley Zavala explains where the effort stands now.
Look, we're anticipating that they've got the signatures.
Governor Gavin Newsom coming to grips with the likelihood 2021 will be another election year in California with the recall effort against him. The governor Tuesday taking aim at the leaders of the effort, saying they're far-right Trump supporters.
Look at the actual reasons they themselves listed. It has to do with immigration, the browning of California. It has to do deeply with our values, the things we hold dear. And so I'm not just fighting for me, I'm fighting for you, I'm fighting for the values of the state.
This campaign is not about the people who are leading this recall. This campaign is about Governor Newsom.
Proponents of the recall say of the nearly 2.1 million signatures collected so far, about 38% of them include Democrats, no party preference, and other non-Republican registered voters.
This is about the people who have signed this petition, the ones who are going to go ahead and be the final judge and jury on this campaign.
Newsom's visit to a Bay Area school Tuesday was his first public appearance since kicking off an anti-recall campaign the week of the proponents' deadline. An email sent out by the campaign Tuesday launched a 72-hour fundraising drive requesting at least $3 contributions to stop the recall.
What took him so long? I mean, he dismissed the recall campaign for 9 months. He laughed us off. He didn't make any mention to us. And now all of a sudden he's in complete freakout mode.
The governor warning this will cost taxpayers.
And I have great respect for people who disagree with me, but this is a sideshow, this is a circus. It's going to cost $100+ million.
Proponents of the recall say they plan to release the final number of signatures collected Wednesday after 5 p.m. Meanwhile, the Secretary of State's office will have until April 29th to verify the signatures. Reporting in Sacramento, Ashley Zavala, 17 News.
Welcome back. Your time now is 6:46, and COVID-19 knows no boundaries. It disrupted everyday life and completely changed the norm. 17's Eliana Capian joins us live from downtown Elementary this morning with more. Good morning, Eliana.
Good morning, Alex. That's right. No one was safe from the effects of COVID-19, not even our local schools. On March 13th, 2020, local school leaders met to discuss the needs of our students and decided to ultimately stay open as long as possible. Things quickly shifted.
Timing was of the essence. I can tell you that it was like running I I hate to use the word war, but it was a wartime effort. We had leaders across different districts and within our county office who came together.
Barlow says they divided up the work into 3 task forces. First, how students would learn if they had to learn from home. Second, how connectivity was going to work. And third, how they were going to continue to feed their students. A huge reason that Kern County schools tried to stay open as long as possible is because most students in the county are considered socioeconomically disadvantaged.
We divided up the work, so we had task force that were leading how to feed students and continue to ensure that over 80 sites were delivering food to about 120,000 students a day. We are the source of 2 to 3 meals a day. And we even provided meals for the weekend.
Districts had to do a lot of legwork, transitioning away from the original paper packets to digital learning.
We had to quickly address the digital divide, which was extreme. And we found in our rural parts and in many of our socially economically disadvantaged parts of Kern County, we needed to either provide hotspots or send and equip buses to be hotspots into different neighborhoods.
The digital divide began to become more apparent, and the districts had to acquire devices for students much sooner than other counties across California.
The third pillar was creating this online learning platform called Canvas and Google, and coming together to create that curriculum that supports students and parent learning during this pandemic.
By the 17th and 18th of March, educators were packing up their classrooms and transitioning to online learning, though at the time they assumed it would only be for a short period of time.
Even when it first happened, we thought, oh, this is going to be, a few weeks, maybe something along those lines. It was absolutely shocking, but we decided to plan for the worst and hope for the best. And that's what's held us together through all of this.
A year later, the pandemic has brought a lot of change accompanied by darkness. But Barlow says the pandemic has yielded some positivities.
The pandemic drew a bright line under the inequities in our community. So access to technology, food, insecurity, shelter, and as a result, it has impacted the gap in academic learning. The one thing that's a silver lining in this, we found out as a result of the pandemic just how important our education system is, because it delivers so much more than academics. It focuses, as we've said, on that well-being of the entire child.
Barlow says communication and the role of parents in a child's education has really improved through the pandemic, and it's also opened up a new opportunity for public schools to explore and provide education to students in new ways.
So there's some silver linings that are definitely coming out of this that will forever change education.
Now, as vaccines continue to roll out and numbers continue to drop, educators are looking forward to return to in-person instruction and opening the gates to many schools across Kern County. In downtown Bakersfield, Ileana Capellan, 17 News.
While schools rushed to adapt to distance learning, youth athletics didn't have the same option, leaving thousands of young athletes on the sidelines. Coming up today on 17 News at 5, Sports Director Taylor Schaub looked back at a year without sports. Take a look.
They've lost that thing that gets them up every morning.
I just didn't really know what to do. This year was supposed to be like my best year,
I almost fell apart, It was a horrible feeling.
Out of all the events that had been canceled this senior year, that was the one that hurt the most.
You always say you hate school, you don't want to be at school, but then when the reality hits that you don't get to go to school anymore.
All of a sudden it's just taken out of your hands and you have absolutely no say. It's a terrible feeling, it's just gut-wrenching.
Reactions from local high school athletes as their seasons were canceled, and the light at the end of the tunnel as some students get back on the field.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.